it could be anything here. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a little lag right there. 50%, right down here. 50% of 100. You get, of course, 50, right? Because 100 divided by 2, that's 50% of 100 divided by 2, you get 50. Well, then, if you switch these numbers around and say, what's 100% of 50? You get the same thing. And of course, it's because the full amount of 50 is 50. And this might not seem so remarkable here, but it gets more fun when we look at other problems like, let's look at 25% of 40, and then 40% of 25. Okay, well, to find 25% of 40, we take 40 divided by 4 and we get 10. To find 40% of 25, well, using techniques from before, 10% of 25 is 2.5. 40%, that's times 4, so we get 40%, and that's 10. So this is also 10. So what I'm saying is that 40% of 25 is not so easy to find, but 25% of 40 is simple. So you can always swap this around. And all I'm doing here is saying, instead of 40% of 25, you take this number, move it here where the percent is, and move this number there. It's a little swap of the numbers, but the percent sign stays where it is. Now the question is, why is this true? And it's a little difficult for me to explain without using an equation. So I'll start with an equation and then go from there. So 25% of 40 equals 40% of 25, and this is, I think, such a great thing to look at. Well, what is 40% of 25? Right? And what is 25% of 40? How do we think of that in terms of an equation? Well, 25 times 1 over 100, that's like, so this is 25%. 25 over 100, right? Times 40 is one way to think about 25% of 40. Of is typically synonymous with multiplication. So 40% would be 40 over 100 times 25. And then we can write this a different way. You can say 25 times 1 over 100, that's the same thing as this, times 40 equals 40 times 1 over 100 times 25. Now, one thing we've been talking about a lot in past videos and throughout all middle school, you will hear this, in elementary school you hear it mentioned, is the commutative property, which tells us that if you take a number like 3 times 2 times 4, that equals any combination where you can do 4 times 2 times 3. You can change the order, right? 4 times 2 times 3 is what? Well, 4 times 2 is 8, times 3 is 24. 3 times 2 times 4 is also 24. So when you're multiplying like this, even if the numbers are not very friendly, you can move them around. So look at this right side of the equation. I can work on either side. I can move this 25 here and this 40 here and leave the 1/100th in the middle, and I get 25 times 1 over 100 times 40, which is the same thing here. So backtracking, what that means is that 40% of 25, right, if you write it out, move things around, we get this. And then we go this way. Oh, what did that mean? That meant 25% of 40. So because of the commutative property, you can always flip around the percent with the number you're looking at. So if I give you a problem like, oh, what is 80% of 50? Not that hard of a problem. But wouldn't it be nice to say, what's 50% of 80? That's the same thing. Well, 50% of 80 is 40. So 80% of 50 has to be the same thing. And this is a great way of looking at percents. And it always has amazed me that something like this actually works out. Because intuitively, it's not so easy. Oh yeah, 50% of 80, 80% of 50. Does that necessarily work? I'm not sure. Well, look at the commutative property. If you switch these things around, we know the product won't change, right? That's what multiplication and addition, that's why they're so powerful. You can just change that order to solve it any way you want. So if you were given 50% of 80, change it. Try 80% of 50, or vice versa, whichever you prefer. I prefer 50% of 80. And you can use that to solve the more difficult problem. Anyway, I hope this helped.